My Rover 75 has been my daily driver for nearly 5 years, but it is now time to confine my Rover 75's daily use to history. But this isn't just about my car, it's about yours as well. Whether a Rover or not, this is the end of the car as we know it. In this video, I'll be covering my old car in a changing world where it may not be welcome any longer. Hello everybody and welcome to this video. This video is on the mass extinction of the car as we know it and why my car and yours might become a part of it. Now if you're not subscribed already, please make sure to do so. It really does help me out and you get to see more of this, more history videos, more projects like 2600R and more stuff like this. Drop a comment below, what has been your favourite car that you've owned and do you agree with what I'm saying? Do you think the car as we know it will cease to exist? Now, without further delay, let's get into the history of my Rover 75 and why I like old cars so much. And then we'll move on to the mass extinction of the car as we know it. First, it's important we explore the history of why I love this 75 so much. After my Mercedes A-Class was stolen in 2019, giving me a much needed yet unjust reality check, a change was in order. That's when I decided it was time to stop buying things for the sake of everyone else and buy what I actually wanted, a Rover 75. After much searching, I saw this magnificent car pictured here in what I thought was the worst colour ever at the time, white gold, but it had everything I wanted. Beige sandstone interior, maxed out with all the options, you name it, this car had it. I decided this was the one, I had to have this car. I then travelled to Dawlish and spent the night in the dodgiest Airbnb you've ever seen. I didn't sleep much that night, not because of the weird house with a takeaway arriving every 20 minutes, but because I was excited about my Rover 75 that I'd just bought. The next day, after getting barely any sleep, I met the owner at the train station and there she was. Probably the least impulsive thing I'd ever bought. After 12 years of wanting one, I'd done it. For £500, I'd bought my very own Rover 75. Fast forward to June 2019, in a Rover that many said would let me down, I embarked on an epic journey. Taking this car that would apparently break down non-stop from Sheffield to Amsterdam, and then on to Frankfurt, Stuttgart, crossing another border as well into Switzerland, staying in Geneva, and then on to Milan in Italy. We were now at our furthest point in the journey, in a car that was apparently going to make me look like a fool, but it wasn't. The 75 didn't even break a sweat, but of course we did in the nearly 40-degree heat, typical Brits on holiday. But then, at the most stressful part of the journey back into Switzerland to stay in Zurich, our accommodation plans fell through, leaving us with nowhere to stay in Switzerland. We had to then book accommodation somewhere else, in a small town in southern France. This all happened around 11 PM, so in a country where we couldn't speak any of the language, typical Brits on holiday again, the mighty Rover sprung into life. Last check-in was at 12 PM and we were miles away, so we really had to nail it. Through some of the most challenging roads I'd ever been on in the Alps, we made it, and the car yet again proved it was an absolute force. Fast forward through Dijon, the middle of France and Paris, we boarded the ferry and went home. The car had done it. It proved everybody wrong and had reignited my dormant passion for British cars. I then began making videos of it. Back then though, there weren't many videos appreciating these old Rovers, but that was about to change, and as more people appreciated these cars, an entirely new generation of Rover enthusiasts would come into the fold. It was really the cornerstone of my life, the thing that connected me to communities, friends and family. But that is the past, and as we look towards the future, my Rover 75 may not be in it. With the rising costs of living and with that fuel, these cars might become a thing of the past on our roads. My car survived the first scrappage scheme and the second, but it might not survive into the future. With low emission zones being proposed and implemented all over the UK and the financial success of ULEZ in London, it is only a matter of time before my car and many others are destined to be destroyed by unaffordability. Leaving these old machines, the machines that got the people moving, lost to time, and with it, the concept of car ownership. You see, with the way things are going, at present I foresee a future unlike anything we could have had night terrors about, with the car becoming a service rather than a piece of property owned by the motorist. Cars at present are just not affordable in most cases, not just the initial price, but as a long-term financial proposition. Yes, there are some cases of Teslas, etc., going to have high mileage with warranty loophole battery replacements, but for the average person, cars are now becoming unserviceable. This isn't just with EVs though. Modern cars are overcomplicated, with some manufacturers deliberately locking out owners of various features and options to repair. There are also running costs as well, which are skyrocketing, with insurance on the increase, basically making Range Rovers completely unaffordable and pricing most people out of older cars. In regards to repairs, the cost of labour going up is also at play as a result of the economic conditions. With all of the above factors and new cars such as EVs losing a lot of value when it comes to the used market, there is only one way if you discount old non-compliant cars. A subscription service, essentially turning your car into the transportation version of an iPhone. If you combine this with a 2-year interval of changing non-serviceable EVs and exchanging them in with the manufacturer, you can see where I'm going with this. A constant churn of new cars, a constant revenue source for car manufacturers. Currently, there are several all-inclusive car rental subscription services offered by Volvo and Jaguar Land Rover, to name two, with many more creating their own services. Essentially, cars are becoming a subscription service, and that's where the problem is. For some, yes, this is a great option. It's all inclusive, so you don't have to worry about insurance, tax or servicing, or even buying the car yourself. The bad news is though, this isn't your car. It's owned and controlled by a massive company. This could trigger the next mass extinction event for older cars, similar to the 2009 scrappage scheme. Whether that's good or bad, I'll let you decide in the comments. This is why at this point in the video, I have a confession to make. I'm reversing my decision to retire my Rover 75, because while I can enjoy it, I damn well will, making it my own, driving it to the point it falls apart and putting it back together again until I can't anymore, because that's what an enthusiast does. That is what cars are all about. They're connecting you with other places and people on your own terms. The car and the concept of car ownership may be dying, but where there's a will, there's a way. This isn't gloomtube, where I tell you about things that might happen for clickbait. This channel is all about celebrating the incredible ingenuity of cars and the people that make them. As technology advances, so do the people that make it. There are always ways to take back control. A good example of this is an iPhone. With the original iPhones, the device was completely locked down. Then some people far smarter than us broke through, unleashing the creativity of every iPhone owner that dared to defy Apple. The only way Apple could win was letting the public have what they want, allowing all of the customization back into the user's hands. The consumer became the owner again. And this will happen again, as it always does. This is what drives our world, and this is what is ingrained in the car community as well. No amount of regulation, restrictions or lockouts can change that. Cars as they are, yes, these days are numbered to a certain extent, and I'll cover this in another video. But the car itself, as we know it today, may change for the worse for a small period of time, but it will rise again. And for that, I'll keep on driving my Rover 75 long into the future. And with 167,000 miles on the clock and climbing, the only thing stop it seeing the road again is this bloody alternator.